What's up, everyone, and welcome back to the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast, where we bring you real conversations with real people from all walks of life. Today's episode is proudly supported by Delaware Bushido Academy, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Smyrna, White Belt Surfer, and Torrey Wellness Center. Thank you for continuing to support the mission and helping to grow us and this community. Today, we're joined by John Carter, a lifelong martial artist with over 40 years of experience, a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and the owner of a certified training center in Lexington, South Carolina. In this episode, we dive into his journey, from starting martial arts in the 80s to building a successful academy to becoming one of the early pioneers in Gracie University CTC program. We talk about self-defense versus competition, teaching all age groups, building a business, and the mindset it takes to stay consistent for decades. This is more than just jiu-jitsu. It's about growth, discipline, and becoming who you've meant to be. Let's get into it with John Carter. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Kumite Lifestyle Podcast. Today we're joined by none other than Mr. John Carter. John, thank you so much for hopping on the podcast. How's it going today?
Man, it is going great, and glad to be here. It's been a busy morning already, so already taught a jiu-jitsu class and got some kids off to school and a little work done, and making some awesome time to visit with you. I appreciate you having me.
Of course, and yeah, I love it, and it's definitely something I want to talk about is your jiu-jitsu. I know you run a beautiful CTC down in Lexington, and just for the viewers, when you hear the word CTC, that means Certified Training Center. John, like myself, are both Gracie University certified instructors, and that's essentially how we met. So back in January of this year, man, it's crazy. It's already March. I had a chance to connect with John, and I had known who you were previously just through social media, and that's one of the beauties of social media is you get to use it in that kind of outlet. And so I always like seeing what other CTCs are doing, and you're also a black belt, and that's something else that I think is pretty noteworthy because earning the rank black belt should mean something, especially in the organization that we belong to. It's definitely no easy feat. So dude, I'm just happy to have you on. I'm happy that we connected. So let's start off with this. I know you run a certified training center, but before we talk about that, let's go back in time. So as a martial artist, and for those watching again, like Kumite means the meeting of hands. So it's a term that you probably hear often in the martial arts. I think it's only fitting to talk about, your martial arts journey and where you started. So I don't want to assume that it was, jiu-jitsu first. So John, when did you first start training? And then with that, can you tell us why you started training?
Yeah. So March the 27th, upcoming here, I guess next weekend, I'll be 54 years old. So about 40 years ago, back in the 1900s, 1986. So let's see, the Karate Kid was real big, the Cobra Kai, the reboot was not even a thought yet. And my older brother loved Bruce Lee movies. And so he'd be watching Bruce Lee movies and I'd be checking in, seeing what's going on, and really had an interest in martial arts. And so it was the summer of 1986. I guess that's after 8th grade. I was getting ready to start 9th grade in high school. I just told my mom and dad, I was like, I think I would really enjoy martial arts. And so we looked around, and I grew up in Spartanburg, South Carolina, which is this kind of a small town up in the upstate of South Carolina. So there was like 3 martial arts schools in our, that was about it. So there was a karate school, a taekwondo school, and then there was an aikido school. And Steven Seagal, this is 1986, so Steven Seagal is not even known yet. So I went in and watched and saw a guy smaller than me just wrist locking people and throwing people and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, I'm not a big, strong guy. And I was like, I want to do that. So I've always gravitated to the grappling arts. And so I thought that would be cool. And I'm like, let's do it. Let's sign up. And I parked some sports kind of activities over here and did a few less sports. And I did my scouting. I did get my Eagle Scout as well. And then focused on martial arts. So I started with Aikido back in 1986. Loved it. got my black belt in Aikido back in like 1990. It's about 4 or 5 years, 90, 91 something. And then, went to college full time down in USC in Columbia, South Carolina. Stayed active in martial arts. That's where I kind of expanded a little bit. That's where I started, was introduced to Shuri-Ryu karate, and loved that. So I liked the striking aspect, how it connected to my grappling, and just stuck with it. After college, I started working a little bit out in the real world, and then also taught a couple classes part time in the evenings, and have been doing that since.
Man, I love it. And yeah, a couple things that you said there that kind of resonated with yeah, just myself and I'm sure the viewers. So I actually I started also in March as well. Not as long, of course, but it's always interesting how we have these humble beginnings, right? And I appreciate you sharing how, you started kind of right in this era where karate and even martial arts was kind of still relatively new. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, jujitsu, while it is becoming more pop culture, it's still kind of new in a sense where, I don't know, John, do you ever struggle where, obviously we know what we do and we see what the benefits are. But for the longest time when people would say, hey, like, what's karate? What's jujitsu? I know what it means. So I can give an efficient answer, but sometimes that might be even hard for the average consumer. So with all your experience, and it's cool that you've had a chance to be involved with different arts and as an instructor in jujitsu and self-defense, that's something that you can share with your students. Something that we can do here in Smyrna as well, because my instructor, Howard Steele, has a very extensive karate background as well and an MMA striking. And I feel that only makes you better, but you can also educate the public a lot better too on why, jujitsu is so beneficial. But I ponder the question, have you ever struggled with the when someone says, hey John, I hear you do that karate type stuff, how do you best explain that to the average consumer or maybe just a friend or a family member that doesn't really know what you do?
Yeah, we have a lot of people interested, a lot of friends, family, just people I work with and went to school with, and ran across paths in college and stuff. And they find out that you do martial arts, and I try to keep it low key. I don't walk around like, now I have to walk around as a business owner with all my stuff to advertise the business. But back in the day, I wasn't,
Yeah.
I just kept it quiet to myself. And they would find out, it's like, yeah, you do like that martial arts stuff. That's usually refer to it as that, or that karate. They call it everything karate, no matter if you do any style. It's all karate, especially down in the South. And
Yeah,
and it's
Karate
all
Kid.
karate. Yeah, everything gets lumped in. And I'm like, well, I actually do a little bit more grappling, kind of stuff. And then they're like, well, they think that we're just going to square up and start to fight, and sometimes I would say, hey, if you just grab my wrist, I'll show you how I can like quickly and easily just escape out. And I kind of show like a quick little low impact, low challenge, leverage based move. And then they're like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. I think they're expecting some big tornado kick or a cartwheel or something. They're like, oh yeah. And then I show it in a very humble, like teaching kind of way. And if they were interested, like, yeah, that's pretty cool. Or otherwise they're disinterested because it's not that exciting. And then the conversation will either shift to something else, or it'll stay a little bit more of a serious conversation. I'll look at it as like a little teaching opportunity for them,
Yeah, absolutely. I love it. It's like you can do your best to explain it, and even if that person or maybe groups of people that are asking, they might get like a 1% of what you're trying to explain. But hopefully, my goal is, and our goal is, they leave a little bit better as far as what they thought the martial arts was, and I think that's important, man, because while what we do can be, considered systemized violence, if you will, it expands much more than that. And obviously, being a lifetime, martial artist that you have, there's so much more that, I mean, for myself, martial arts has given me everything. It's given me this platform. It's how we met. So, I mean, obviously, it's more than just, the physical altercations or the striking that, people like, I guess, perceive it as. So yeah, man, right on. So I know you've been doing this for a while. Did you ever compete, growing up? Was, competition something you did? Not just jujitsu, but just martial arts in general, because I know there's the sports side and then we have the self-defense side, which, can be a whole different, topic of debate, which is also important. But I think it's, I just like to know from, people that have been training for a long time, was competition something that you did? And if you did do that, was that a choice that you made, or was it, something that your instructor said, no, things I want you to compete because it's the only way that you're going to be good? So I'd love to
Right.
hear that.
So not so much on the competition side. The dojo that I found was a non-competitive way of teaching martial arts. I did feel like, and that's really kind of purposely what one of the reasons I chose the school I did, is because I did play sports so much, and I like love sports and competition, and lots of swim team ribbons and baseball trophies and stuff. So I really had that outlet. And so I was looking for more of a kind of a compete against myself and more of an inner way of kind of growth and learning. And I felt like we were able to. My teacher attracted, because of the grappling side, we attracted a lot of students that came from competition and striking backgrounds. We had a guy that trained with us that was a Golden Gloves boxer. He was also a black belt in Shotokan karate. And then we had another black belt in Taekwondo. And those guys had done a lot in that circuit. And so we kind of did inter school, like kind of inter class competitions and sparring. And so I felt like I had plenty of ability to feel how a personal challenge was against some guys that had competition experience. I also cross trained a little bit when I was a little older, around 18 or 19, up in Simpsonville at Ray Thompson School, where Stephen Thompson was a little kid from the UFC. Stephen Thompson.
Yeah, yeah.
So his dad was friends with my teacher, and so he was like world class kickboxing. So I would go and train with those guys and spar and fight with guys that did a lot of competition. So that's my connection to it. And so I felt like I challenged a lot of the skills against a lot of people that spent a lot of time in competition settings. So I just kind of focused more on the personal path. My teacher never emphasized competitions. He wasn't against it. And that's the same way I am now. I have every now and then I'll have a student that'll want to do a competition, or maybe one of their friends is in a competition. I'll go support those kind of things, go to tournaments and stuff, and just be a observer and enjoy that arena. So
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's cool that even though you didn't have, well, it sounds like you've been competing a lot, just, from your other, interscholastics and sports, and it's all one and the same, I feel, because competition gives you that exposure against, that mental and physical preparation, of course, before, going against another team. But I like how you said, like, you wanted a challenge, for yourself, of course. And that's what I feel martial arts gives a lot of people. But not, from the official sense of competition. And I just had this discussion recently with a buddy of mine where, like, when we're sparring in class, that is like, one could classify that as competition because you're going up against another opponent. Now, whether they're resisting 100% or going, a balls to the walls, and obviously we feel the
right,
difference, but it's still competition. So, like, I kind of chuckle when people say, oh, like, if you're not competing in tournaments, like, you're not doing the real thing. And I'm thinking, bro, I have 20 people that I can just ask right now, like, hey, like, let's get it on, So
right,
it's I like how you were able to like, justify that and say, like, in class, like, you can still be competitive, to a certain point, but also keeping safety in mind as well. And that's something that I
right,
think people understand when they think of jujitsu and wrestling and even, MMA. Like, yeah, all those things are great, but at the end of the day, I still want to walk home or, like, go home after that, So
right.
I think jiu-jitsu gives us that ability for sure. And something that, of course, being a, CTC owner. So yeah, it's awesome. So I want to know now, when did you decide to, and maybe this is jumping too far ahead, but when did you decide to go the CTC track? So I guess my question is, where were you in your journey or in life when you made the decision? You say, you know what, I can do this for a living. This is something that's great. Like, let's go for it, because I love hearing the CTC stories of why people got, their initial start.
Yeah. Well, my Aikido instructor, I think he was a third dan in judo. Had a lot of Japanese jiu-jitsu, so we had the Aikido, Japanese jiu-jitsu, and judo, kind of all the standing grappling.
Yeah.
Not very much on the ground, so that comes later. So that was what I taught for, at a full-time school for a long time. So I worked, graduated from college in '96. And then for about 4 or 5 years, I worked out in the corporate world. And then my classes in school kept growing. And so I ended up kind of resigning from the corporate world and focusing on the martial arts full time. And so that was like probably 2000.
Nice.
So from 2000, I was running a full-time traditional dojo, and just loving it. I did a bunch of kids programs and after-school programs and all of that stuff. So this is 2000. And then later, let's see. Yeah. And then later, I was very interested in bringing more ground curriculum and organized technique, instead of just, we're going to do this, or we have some wrestling and this is what you would do on the ground and these are scrambles. I wanted to have an actual curriculum in. So around 2009 and 10, I started training with a local, I think he was at the time a four-stripe purple belt of the Valente brothers. Out of Gracie, Miami. So his name is Jack Walker. He moved up from Miami to South Carolina, Irmo, South Carolina, kind of Lexington, Irmo, Columbia area. And very self-defense jiu-jitsu, because I wanted to do self-defense. And I didn't not like competition, but I wanted to use jiu-jitsu to not get punched, and kind of like what Hoist did back in the day. Yeah. And so he was very self-defense oriented. And so I started training with him. I started bringing him in a month at the end of my Aikido and judo classes, and we would do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Jack. And then I also did privates with him. And that's how I was introduced to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. And after some time training with Jack, Pedro Valente came up. He would come up and do seminars, and I was able to take my blue belt test with Pedro Valente standing right there. With a little very nervous, but
no pressure there, right?
No pressure. So obviously did well and passed, and got my blue belt there. And then another buddy of ours had located the Gracie Combatives DVD set from Dinner and Hit On. And he was like, John, have you seen the Gracie Combatives curriculum? I'm like, no, what are you talking about? And so he's like, yeah, you need to check this out. So I kind of started looking at some of the videos and watching the kind of methodical linear format of the curriculum. And I was like, golly, this is great. I can add in a little bit and kind of fill in some things I have interest in, like how to get out of a headlock and this and that. So I focused 100% on the combatives and loved it. And then that was 2010, and Hit On was coming December of 2010. He was in the Atlanta, Georgia area doing a bunch of seminars. And I'm like, man, I want to go meet this guy. Yeah. And do a seminar, met Hit On there, and he did a great seminar, super personable, friendly. I was like, hey, I'm already running a school. I'm a blue belt. I'd like to get more involved in the combatives and this and that. He said, well, hey, we have an instructor certification program coming up this summer, in the summer of 2011. And all the pieces came together. I finalized my combatives test, qualified, scored high enough to qualify to become an instructor. And then I went out in the summer to headquarters, did the instructor certification program. I flew back Sunday. Literally Monday night, we had our first Gracie combatives class just already had it all set up. Everything was organized. I'm like, hey, I'm coming back at 7:30 after the 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. class. We are starting Gracie Combatives. I'm fresh back from California and the Gracie family. And so at that moment, that's it. We had finalized the becoming a CTC, and that was back in 2011. And now it's 2026. So it's about 15 years ago now. So just living the dream, enjoying the journey, man.
Man, that is so cool. And especially the part that you mentioned. Well, I mean, there's a couple things that you said that, is really cool. And like, hats off, man. Like, that's awesome that you've been doing this for that long, aside from just, training martial arts for a long time, like you have. It's interesting, right? When you talked about your friend Jackson,
Jack.
Jack, I'm sorry, being the purple belt. And I feel like at that time, man, like, especially early on, like if you saw a blue belt, a purple belt,
Yeah.
yeah, like four stripes. They might as well just been a black belt, because they were
100%.
so far ahead. And I remember seeing that a little bit early on. In my training, I didn't get formally introduced to jiu-jitsu until around 2015. So even then, it's like if you saw like a high purple, brown, or black, they were like obviously they put in a lot of time. So it's cool that, and as you said, it's like these pieces kind of just fell into your lap, and like you were already, doing self-defense. So when you met, the guys from Valente, they were doing what you needed, and then the combatives came along. So man, it's like what an awesome Cinderella type story, It's like you got all the pieces.
Yeah, going back to what you said, I remember Jack, and then I think shortly after he went down to Miami, and I think he got his brown belt. But
Sure,
so
yeah.
being a four stripe purple belt under the Valente brothers, he was awesome, incredible, and he obviously he went on and got his black belt and everything. But I remember watching Jack and one of his students, this guy named Daniel, so cool guy. He's a black belt in our area now and has a school. But I remember Jack and Daniel was probably a blue belt. I'm not sure, maybe a stripe or two or something. And I remember watching them when I was still like a white belt in jiu-jitsu. I remember watching them flow sparring and thinking, if I just get my blue belt, that's going to be awesome. And how just capable and flow they were moving together. And then of course I got my blue belt and I'm like, golly, this is amazing. Let's just keep going purple belt and then just keep going. I want to go all the way. And so when I saw you recently, I was fortunate enough to get my first stripe on my black belt with the Gracie brothers, hit on, and just honored to have that. And so couple more years down the road, just keep doing what I'm doing and just staying active and doing my teaching, and I love it. But you're right, a four stripe purple belt, good solid deep blue belts. I mean, that was very impressive, and I was like, I want to be able to do that, and that was my goal, and I just worked hard to do what I can, and still trying to set my goal to be as fluid and easy to train with as I can.
Absolutely, John. Before we touch on the ICP, because I'd love to get your perspective on what the first original ICPs were like, especially back then in 2011, like you mentioned. And I was just thinking about this when you were talking about like when you got your blue belt, and it just kind of brought back a memory for myself. But I remember like when I first started jiu-jitsu, and even before that, because I'd seen it, things, I'd been around it, like, like either having friends or people that I know like do it. But my idea of a blue belt, like you said, was like a very polished, like almost like an equivalent to like a karate, purple or brown belt, someone that's been there for a while. Because, for those watching, and again, this isn't an absolute, but it takes a while to get rank in jiu-jitsu. And I think across the board, I think we can all agree on that. It's not, you come in and then, next month here's a blue belt. It takes some good time. And with that, there's also a saying that the mats don't lie. And like when I saw like how blue belts were very capable, I strive to be like that. And then like you said, it's like, great, I'm a blue belt, but there's more. So why not get a purple? Why not get a brown? And like, eventually yourself getting a black belt. But I wonder now, John, like in your experience, I don't think I know, because, being in GU, like we're very spoiled with an, awesome curriculum, but my mindset has shifted where like, I know what a GU good product student looks like, especially with the self-defense, the safe hands. It's like, I know right away, like if I'm rolling with somebody, if they have good safe hands, I'm like, like a little bit of something about self-defense. But like when you watch these sportive guys, and I don't want to, use that in a way that seems negative because it's not. It's just, either the basics early on or you don't. And we've had students come in from different schools, different affiliations, great people, they're tough, but the difference between someone that has a great foundation early on to those that are tough, they know jujitsu, but they don't have like the inner skeleton works that I feel like Gracie University has. So I ponder the question now, John, for you, like when you see a student grappling or even like a black belt, is there a different level of understanding where you can see like, okay, that person obviously is really good self-defense wise, as opposed to someone like, yeah, like, they do a lot of sports stuff. It's cool. But do you wonder like, how's their self-defense? Because that's what I immediately think of.
Yeah. So, well, one thing, and I can speak to this because this is, I've had fortunate enough as a CTC level 4, we are eligible to do live verification tests of people
Yep.
outside of our local school that may train and supplement with the Gracie University curriculum, but they may be at a different affiliate school for mat time.
Sure.
And I can't. And I've done a few of those.
Okay.
Some blue belt, some purple belt. I think we've done. Yeah. So we've done a few of those, and then the testing format is gi sparring, no gi sparring, kind of freestyle gi sparring, and then fight simulation sparring with punches. And then I can immediately tell if the person has been sparring too much, not too much, but focusing too much on gi choke defense and this and that and the other, and not enough rolling and sparring with active punches. And I had a student that was doing very, very well on a lot of the sparring, gi sparring and no gi sparring. And then we had the gloves on. We're not going MMA. It's just like 7-8% punches. It's not permission. It's just, these are reminders of where you are and where punches can come from. And I was doing a test. I think it was probably just maybe a blue belt test. And I remember when we were at that end, that's the end of the test. That's the last of the 4 main sparring drills. And of course the person was tired because that's like, there's 4 10-minute sparring drills, right? So you've already done gi sparring for 10 minutes, no gi sparring for 10 minutes, freestyle sparring for 10 minutes. That's 30 minutes. Now you're putting the gloves on. So the person's been through it. But I remember saying, kind of not doing timeout, which said, hey, slow down for a second. And then I knew the student knew the punch block series, kind of the 1 through 5 stages of the guard, but he wasn't implementing it. And so I said, hey, let's real quick before we keep doing all this, let's pull your training partner, sparring partner into stage 1, and almost did like a quick review just to reset the guy that, wait, we're not gi sparring right now. These are punches coming at you. And he had to kind of reset and remember, oh yeah, I'm not like looking for sweeps at all cost. I am trying not to get touched with a glove. Yeah. And one thing to get on, Gracie said to me one time, or probably to a group of us at a seminar, was whenever he's sparring and moving around a little bit, when he lands in a position, he likes to think to himself, okay, am I going to be okay here if this was a real fight and punches were allowed? Yeah. And then it's like, am I good? And then going about your kind of friendly fire jiu-jitsu sparring from there. So I look at everyone, and I have had some students come in that train with us regularly that have had various backgrounds of jiu-jitsu. And that is one of the first things, because Henner also emphasizes this so much, of doing jiu-jitsu almost once a week with punches and live punches, and just knowing how to be and flow and knowing where punches are going to come from and where could hurt you. And I look at everyone that way, including myself. So sometimes I'll purposely allow for a bad position or maybe a sportive type position and say, hey, how long could I be here before I got to bail out and get somewhere better? So I'm not absorbing punches. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that breakdown. And that's, it's, as you were saying that, some of the key things you were emphasizing, it's like, I've either heard it from Hudon or a lot of it I've heard from Howard. So it's very cool how, a lot of us GU instructors, obviously we have the same mindset, and like it doesn't happen overnight. It's just something that, is taught over time. But something that I find very interesting, John, and I know you've seen it too, is, especially when we're out at ICP, before we get into that, is, when I listen to these seasoned instructors teaching, we all teach and talk very similar. It's like, guys, check this out. It's like we're very, it's almost like a little bit Hennerish, but it's still our personality. But that's, the one thing that really separates us from other instructors is that, there's a formula, which how we teach, of course, but, it's, some would say, oh, it's robotic things. You guys are only teaching like certain was like, yeah, there's a guideline, but it's still us. And I think like once you get past that point, especially as a, not necessarily as a black belt, because there's amazing instructors that are not black belts yet, but just hearing their lingo and their language and how they explain things, it's so efficient, it's so precise. It's like music to my ears, bro. Things. That's why I love the GU curriculum. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's amazing having students from all over the country, all over the world, traveling. We're in South Carolina, so we have beaches right down the road, mountains just up the road,
Nice.
always warm. A lot of people are traveling maybe through our state to get down to Florida or to the coast. So we have students coming from all over, and the thing that is amazing to me is they can fall into class, and if my regular teaching partner is not there, I can pull that brand new person up and say, hey, we're doing the elevator sweep tonight.
That's an 8.
Class number 3 or whatever class we're doing. They can plug in right in, and they're going to follow the guidelines of the teacher. And I found that also when I've assisted at the Gracie Survival Tactics courses.
Yep.
I have instructors from all over. We've never even taught together personally, but we kind of know the system and the formula and the methodology and the angle management and all that stuff that we get taught. And it's we're all on the same path, and we're all using the same map.
Yeah.
And then if someone's making a point, I know just to kind of hang back and listen to what they're saying, and then I always wait. I'm prepared, and I'll be waiting for them to look at me and say, "Hey, John, do you have anything to add?" Because I'm not going to be there like, "No." So I'm like dialed in. They may hit everything, or they may have like just forgot about one little safety tip that I didn't remind my class one time, and someone's wrist got bent backwards or something, and I'll just say, "Hey, there's a little safety tip right here." So that ability to collaborate like on the spot. Is the continuity, I think, is what you're talking about.
Yes.
Not the continuity, but then the amazingness and the energy and all the details that they require us to know. It kind of standardizes everything at a high bar, and I'm glad they do that, and I like to have to meet that, and I like that everyone else meets it too.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it just sets us apart. And like, you don't realize, the beauty of the SPF, which is Life Presentation Formula, until you've taught it around people that don't know it. And then they're thinking like, man, that was the most amazing class. And as Henry says, like it could be your worst SPF, but it could still be someone's best class ever. So
Right.
yeah, I agree with the continuity for sure. So now like, I would love to hear about your experience at the ICP and like what were your takeaways, and more importantly, when you came back that Monday, like you said, 7:30, did you have success right away, or like I guess what I'm asking is what were some of the struggles maybe early on, teaching with this new methodology that we're talking about. But first, let's talk about your experience with the ICP, and just break that down of like what that is for the general audience, and then we'll go from there.
So ICP is instructor certification program, and so it's a robust qualification. So you just don't get on in. You've got to qualify demonstrate that the Gracie combatives techniques at a high level. You can't just pass the test. You have to go above a minimum instructor score, and once you qualify for that. Then what they did is they had recorded a live course in person, and then took all that video, edited it down, chopped it up into like 52 lessons. And so you can, instead of trying to like learn it all over 6 months, or go back and forth, you can learn the main components of the instructional program, combined with your jiu-jitsu knowledge of the physical techniques, and then you can prepare at home or at your training centers, out and about wherever you are. Once you turn around some proficiency videos, you got to show that you can absorb the information, get it into your head, and resend it back out in a very logical, passionate, positive, friendly way. You will become eligible or qualified to be invited out to now redo all of that, live and in person, with the real pressure.
Yeah, I was going to say it's not easy to begin with, and like you said, then you're out there with other instructors, but and I would imagine back then it wasn't as big, so it's like more like eyes on you. I feel, you know.
So you know Chet, right? Chet,
of course, yeah.
He was. That's how far back mine goes too, because Chet goes all the way back, right?
Yeah.
He was my first evaluator that was helping out with my slice presentation formula. So every time I see Chet, I'm like, Chet, fist bump, what's up, man? You were my first evaluator, and now I'm up helping evaluate, during the ICP. So it's an awesome journey. But yeah, there was probably like, I don't even know. There's probably like maybe 30 something instructor candidates out there when I went. It was like super small. It wasn't. We were at the other location, so we weren't at the big new location where we've been going.
Yeah.
So there were some other instructors that were there that were already black belts or other certified instructors helping us out. Very, very small and intimate. Lot of felt not too much pressure, but everybody was right there with you. So you were kind of having to step up to the plate. And luckily for me, I had been teaching martial arts for a long time. So I was just like, hey, this is a great new system for me to be able to teach and develop my instructor skills. So because I had been teaching martial arts, I was not a new teacher of martial arts. I just was learning this particular way. So that I felt like brought a lot of my nerves down.
Yeah.
I know that there was a lot of other folks out there that were very, very nervous. And then the Gracies did a really good job of helping everybody chill out, relax, but yeah, there was some definitely nerves. I think that was one of the first, one of the first courses that were the instructor course that was done that way, maybe the first or second. Nice. So they have definitely tweaked some stuff in the very positive direction over all these years. But it still has the same heart, the same energy, the same feel.
Man, that's awesome. So you can say that you were one of the original OGs for the, first ICPs, Yeah, I knew Chet was there at the very first one, and then Bill Odom, someone that I met too. He's actually around the same area, I think Virginia Beach. So it's crazy how like there's a lot of OGs that have been there before us, and that's why I love this platform, man. Just hearing people's stories about that. Is there anyone in that class from 2011 that you remember that are still training and teaching today, John?
So, do you know Marty Josie? He's up in the North Carolina area.
I haven't met him, but things I know he has a podcast.
Yeah, so he was there, and then the guys, I think they're in New Hampshire. I'm trying to remember his name. Him and his son teach. It might pop into my head. So yeah, I know there's a good handful of guys from my original class that are still active.
Nice.
In jiu-jitsu or still running the CTCs. Very
cool. And did you ever imagine that it would grow as fast as it did?
Oh, no. It is hilarious. So when I got back in 2011, I think like within the first few years, I had Henner came and did a seminar at my school. Hit On came like twice. Like right back to back. So they were not like jet setting all over the place.
Yeah.
And so it was still kind of in that smallish, we had I don't even remember how many CTCs we had, nationwide or worldwide at the time, but it wasn't anywhere we have now. And they were like, they could come do seminars now. They still do seminars, but I was like, Holly, I had Henner and hit on a couple of times, like within like almost year to year to year, back to back. And a lot of the students, they appreciated it, but I don't think they really knew who they had on the mat with them. So that's how kind of small it was or smaller at the time. And now every time I see hit on somewhere around the Southeast, I'm like, hey, can you swing by? I'll come pick you up. Or if he's doing, so you got to try to work them in and pull them in as best you can, and they do what they can. I have had a hit on here recently, a couple of like 2 times in a row, because I think he was doing EST up with Sonny up in North Carolina.
Yeah.
So we trapped him, reeled him down, and had him again recently. But I remember those quick couple of seminar bursts. I was like, man, let's just roll. It was fun.
Yeah. I guess you could say that's like the pros and cons of being in a organization. Well, it's still like, kind of at an infant stage, but obviously we see the growth of it, which obviously growth's important. I've heard other instructors say, and they've made remarks saying it's not a bad thing, where I guess when they started early on, kind of in the same time period as you, they felt that it was more of a close knit. But with any growing organization, you're not, as I say, more people, more problems. But like, I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just there's a lot of things that they have to handle. And coming into the organization in 2020, I think Howard became I think he became certified in 2015, 2016. So like it was kind of around the immersion time when they did it with Pedro Sauer. That's like I started seeing a lot more growth with the organization. And now it's like Henner doesn't have to sell it as much. I feel like the ICPs kind of sell itself, especially with everything online. And bro, during COVID, I know you remember this, when we couldn't train, Henner put out that free like ICP like workshop, or the business workshop.
Yeah, business mastery or something. Yeah.
Yes. And I remember in the video he was saying like afterwards, and other people made comments saying like after that, I think like 20 different non-CTCs like were applying to become ICPs. So I think it's kind of like cake work now. It's like people see us, they're like, oh, John has a school, H has a school, and then like even the assistants. And one of the reasons why I love having owners on is to share their story. And like, even if it's just 1% of someone who gets it, they're like, yeah, like, CTCs are the way. And I've heard people say like in 50 years, if people aren't doing, the CTC track or something very similar GU, then I think they're going to be so far left behind. And I'm starting to see that, especially with, how amazing our curriculum is,
Yeah. And I've got, I have, the one thing, we can speak a little bit about CTCs now if you want to,
sure,
back do what you want to cover. But the thing I love about it is all the different programs that are specifically built and prepared for different segments of our communities, right? So we have a women empowered program.
Yep.
We have a Gracie Combatives intro program. We have the kids bully proof with the Matt Munchkins, which is a hilarious class.
I love that class. Every Tuesday and Thursday we have it. It's the best 30 minutes of my life.
It is using every bit of my skills as a teacher, instructor, father. I mean, working with a parent. I mean, so anyway, and so 30 minutes, and I'm like, man, I got to sit over here and just read for a second. But it's hilarious. Like the kids are making stuff up on the animal movement. They're like, instead of what I'm telling them to do like a bear crawl, they're doing like a T-Rex. And it's just all good. And I'm like, hey, the parent, flips out sometimes. Like, listen, if they need to come whisper something to you, it's all good. Because they got the gi and they're doing the stuff and they're on the mat. And so anyway.
That's the most important. Yep.
Yeah. And then the master cycle for the intermediate advanced students. So we have all these programs. So having the Gracie University headquarters with Henner and Hit On behind me supporting, and then all of the curriculum certifications that assistants can kind of focus in on. Because I have one women empowered instructor, Jamie, who does amazing. And then I have another instructor that's certified. He actually is law enforcement and he went to a couple of GST through his work, and that's how he found his way to our CTC. He's a brown belt, and so he got certified. So he's also now certified. I have another brown belt that I'm going out with in in July.
Nice.
To get him certified, and then hopefully we'll be back with him. And I think those two guys in December for Black Belt Candidate Weekend. So this development that I've got a whole like organized approach to teaching that I don't have to say, hey, this is what we do. It's like all done. I just can follow the format, the recipe, the formula. We, of course, like you mentioned earlier, we have our own personalities and our this and that and our ways of presenting, but it's just like following a recipe. It's super simple. If you like a little bit extra this and a little bit extra that, that's your spice and that's your way, but it still comes out as the same item that everybody can enjoy at the end of the day. So that's the thing about it is, and then everyone, when we go out to California, it is like everyone is almost your automatic brother or sister. It's like automatic family. Everyone, I know this. I've been out so much, but everyone's already your friend. Yeah. Everyone's there to be. So it's one of the least ego places I've ever been, with a room full of martial artists. And I've been in a lot of rooms with a lot of martial artists, and I've been around a lot of egos. Yeah. And I don't like that. That's the one thing I always, I don't like about martial arts. And when I first met, back when I told you earlier in our talk here, when I first met Hit On back in like December of 2010, I didn't feel any of that from him. He didn't walk around like he's a Gracie and he's the man. He just was like the coolest dude. How everybody knows how chill he is. He was like, hey, here's my contact information. Let me know when you get your testing stuff done in, and just the coolest. And so that's the whole vibe and energy when you come out to instructor certification or any of the other conferences or seminars. It's just, let's learn, let's help each other, let's have a great time. And I love it.
Yeah, man, just expound on that too. So like when you're talking about being in that room, if there's any place where egos should exist, it's there, but it doesn't, because they set that example early on. And something else, I think, because jiu-jitsu is, it's an art where you can't lie. As they say, like, the mats don't lie. So like, even if you wanted to, it's like, great, show me how good you are. But no one does that, because like there's already like this unspoken pecking order, and not just because of rank. I mean, huge shout out to Adam Idison, who just got his black belt last December, but he was the man there for a while, and he was like a purple brown belt. So I learned early on, and I think everyone kind of catches on pretty quickly. It's like, it's not the belt, it's who you are as an individual, and it's like what you bring to the table. And as you said, it's like everyone is so friendly. It's like they want to help you. And yeah, I agree, man. I've been in rooms with black belts, some different styles and tournaments, but I find like the people that are like chest high out and they have something to prove, they have less to show for it. Where folks that do, they don't need to brag. And I think it's just something that for the viewers watching, you just have to experience it for yourself, right, to fully understand. And now going back to Matt Munchkins, I am not a parent. But man, I have seen so many different parenting styles, and I joke with some of the adults, and some of the dads and moms. I'm like, guys, I just want to be very clear. While I love teaching your kids, I have learned so much about parenting just in this 30 minutes, because some parents are very chill, some are just like, and I'm like, guys, zero expectations in this class. I can't expect a 3-year-old to act like how we do. Like, I have trouble sitting still, so I get that, like if like Tommy or Jimmy can't sit, still on the wall, it's totally fine. As long as they're doing jiu-jitsu, like you said, that's a win.
Yeah. And my wife and I raised 3 boys. So, when the parent comes in, they're like apologizing that their kid, I'm like, that's the first thing I say, listen, my wife raised 3 boys. There's not much that I hadn't already seen, Yeah. I mean, there's not much, and I've taught martial arts for so long now. I'm like, I've taught so many kids. I'm like, there's not really that much that a kid hasn't done, And I remind the parents sometimes if they're a little embarrassed or apologetic, I say, listen, it's not that the kid doesn't have your kid can't sit still, but they have a good heart. It's not that they're not trying. They're not, on purpose, banging their head against the wall or touching the kid. It's not, I'm like, and so I start to, as an experienced father, and down the road, but as an experienced father, it kind of puts that parent at ease when they want to they want to lock down the kid and they want that kid to sit perfect. But at the same time, they don't bring them to let me just let them run around like recess. So I have that balance, and it comes with experience. Yep. And you got to bring it way down with like 3.5 to 4 year olds. Cause I had a little girl that didn't want to come onto the mat, and she was kind of crying a little bit. She had like some kind of purple dinosaur or something. And I said, what is your dinosaur's name? And I don't remember what it was, but she told me that, and I said, do you want, let's say it was Joe. Do you want Joe the dinosaur to come to jiu-jitsu with us today? She's like, yes. And so Joe the dinosaur sat next to me on the mat, right? We did a move or something. And I think I think I put him on my shoulder. And then at the end of that class, that girl was like, boom. And so anyway, so you just got to be like, it's the little kids. So if Joe the dinosaur needs to be on the mat for jiu-jitsu, for that kid to be out there, it's okay. Now Joe the dinosaur doesn't need to be a matricycle and we're choking each other to death. So we have the silliness where it belongs and the seriousness and the safety where we have to have it. So
yeah, John, it's kind of like how you said about, each program is tailored for a specific like group of people. And that's the beauty of Gracie University, where it's all jiu-jitsu, it's all packaged just differently, as Henner says. But yeah, man, it's been fun teaching the kids classes. I mean, I've been doing this full time now I've been teaching since 2015, like, with karate, but, jiu-jitsu specifically since 2020. And yeah, I've learned a lot aside from techniques, just about, just teaching kids, teaching adults too. Even like adults need a little bit of love and patience and little, as they say, TLC. And the one thing that I've learned, man, is like people don't care what you know until they know that you care. And when I present myself as very relaxed, very chill, like, the same vibe that I presented to you. And like, people read onto that, and like, they don't care if I was a blue belt or purple belt. They just want to know, like, okay, is my kid going to be safe? Or if they're an adult, am I going to be safe? And I feel that with you, and it's cool that you have 3 boys where you can bring those life experiences in, John.
And yeah, the humble help, right? You hear that a lot, humble help. And then one thing that I think made a big difference when I was first teaching is, I'm also a 5th degree black belt, in the Aikido system. Sure. And so I would be, I would be teaching Aikido class, and then I would take off whatever belt I would take my black belt off with all those degrees, and I would put on my Gracie blue belt.
Yep.
My students would be like, "Oh, yeah, he's setting the example of, I don't know everything. My traditional background of the grappling arts, that knowledge carries over, but I'm not applying it to where I am on this teaching this lesson tonight." And then I did that all the time, all the way up to blue belt, purple belt, brown belt, and got the black belt as well in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So that was a conscious effort of, obviously that was the right thing to do. Yeah. But a lot of students, when they saw that I was doing the right thing, and they were like, "Oh yeah, that's right." He set an example of how you can always be a constant learner, and that I did it even though I was a black belt over here. I wasn't a black belt over on this, and you can always learn. And so I remember back in the day, there's a few of my colleagues that I was like, "Hey, you really should start adding some jiu-jitsu and some combatives to your curriculum, to your stand-up grappling curriculum." And I really encouraged them and tried hard for a couple of years. And I think a few of them could not take off the black belt and put on the white belt. Yeah. And for various reasons, but I just as a person was able to do that. Yeah. And say, listen, because if you're a black belt in something else and then you go like try to spar with a blue belt on the mat, you're like real quick, yeah, I'm pretty much a white belt in jiu-jitsu on the ground. And, and unless you do that, like you said, you don't experience it, and the mat does not lie. And then you're usually like, you know what, I need to be taking this belt off right now and strapping on my Gracie white belt.
Yeah.
And then, and I was just able to do that. I do that in life and other topics and subjects and anything anyway. So, so I was glad to be able to do it, and I would do it all again.
Man, that's awesome. John, I'd love to hear about, the inner works, like as far as like, running a business. So I know you do a great job teaching jujitsu, and that's teaching classes is the easy part, and something that Howard and his wife Jen have done a really good job of mentoring me over the years is, we wear a lot of different hats. I don't do so much of the business side now or the admin side, but I've learned, which is great. In the event if I ever want to open up a CTC, but I've learned that, cleanliness is very important. So like one of my responsibilities is cleaning. And dude, early on, I got to be honest, I saw the benefit of it because my karate instructor, Master Rigby, he always had a clean dojo, and we take those things for granted. It's like, oh, it's like I expect it to be clean, but then when you're in the position where it's like, no, you expect it to be clean, but you're the one who has to do it. It's like, oh, I see the benefit of it. So cleaning was big. Time management, learning how to talk to people, but something that I didn't know early on, John, it's kind of like if I could go back and tell myself, what I wish I knew now was that I've also become a low-key therapist for quite a few students because, they trust you. And sometimes it's things like, yeah, I'm a jiu-jitsu instructor and I'm very transparent about that, but people just want to be heard at the end of the day. So I venture to ask, like, what are some of those things that you learned a little bit later that you wish you knew early on, aside from, teaching jiu-jitsu as far as running a business?
Right. So, well, one thing that I have learned, and it really is probably my personality, is I try to avoid confront. It kind of goes with martial arts, right? I try to avoid confrontation if I can.
Yep.
That's in my nature. Is like, hey, if you want to do this or do that or be this or be that, and I'm free to leave or free to leave this situation or walk away. That's my nature. As a school owner. And Henner has really helped me in this area, is you cannot be afraid of the hard talk.
Oh yeah.
I think this comes up in every ICP.
It does.
You have to have the hard talk. And that was probably the thing that I have learned the most is you just got to go ahead right away, because there's going to be 5 or 6 other people that are waiting for you to have that hard talk with someone that's behaving a certain way, speaking a certain way. They're too fast. They're not careful. They're doing this, that, or the other, and it's negatively impacting your business. And it's kind of flying under the radar. And that was one of the things that, looking back, that I've learned now, is that you just have to have those hard talks earlier and right away. And just kind of confrontation is like understanding that that's just, kind of approaching the truth head on. That's all it is. So confrontation does not have to be a negative thing, because you can present it in a friendly, compassionate way, but you still have to have that. So that was one of the things that I've learned, that you just got to do that right away.
Yeah.
Now, growing up, I always helped clean the dojo back in the day. So my sensei was old school. We cleaned the mats. We did this. The students did all of that. So I still do a lot of cleaning.
Yeah.
I have students that will step in and help, but it's kind of my like serene, by myself, Zen time.
Because no one does it the way you do.
Right.
I get that.
It'll be my face on the mat, And so also, but I put a little music on.
Yep.
And sweep the mats, and then we mop the sweat and the everything off the mat. And it's usually by myself sometimes, a lot of times. And I just, because I love teaching, but that energy goes to the students, rightly so. But that's kind of my time where I kind of recharge on those cleaning times. And then one thing I do a lot business wise is we do, of course, we have all of our, I had to become more social media active and savvy. Luckily, I had always been like website from like back in the like whatever, late 90s and 2000s. We already had a website going and stuff.
Yeah.
I remember arguing with the yellow pages advertising rep when I said I want to shrink my ad all the way down to like one line, one phone number, and then the website address. And they were like, no, you got to have like the big column ad and all that in the yellow pages. That's how. And so I was like, no, we're going more digital at this time. So I was able to do that. And then I've just learned and have heard other people. So it kind of reinforced my thought on this is if we're teaching amazing classes, referrals and word of mouth is going to be
Everything. Yeah.
everything. So, and with all of our classes, with all of our programs, because you have like the little kids and those little kids have their friends. And then the mom that's in the women empowered class, her like book group hear about jiu-jitsu. So we're reaching out in so many different ways in the community with all our programs, that amazing classes, clean dojo or clean academy, clean language, everything's safe. People just like, yeah, John or, Nick, all these guys are like, they're the nicest guys. They're always willing to help. And that word of mouth and referral that's where we are now as far as bringing all those folks in. So
Absolutely. Yeah. And I thank you for sharing that, especially about the hard talks. And I didn't even think about bringing that up just because, yeah, it's, those hard talks going back to that, John, it also sets a reminder of how we should be acting, and because we're all humans at the end of the day, but, we do run a business and our students watch us, and I just had this talk yesterday with Howard, whether we do something or not, or say something, whether we do or we don't, they're still watching. So we gotta be very careful with how we do things. And yeah, those hard talks, once you do them, and I've had to do that, not a lot, but even in my own personal life, once you start having them, you realize like, oh, it's actually easier than what, it is,
Right. Yeah. And I've had, and my, we're sitting there and we're teaching these kids classes and we're teaching them about, character development and courtesy and respect and clean living and all this other stuff on the mat. And, one thing that we always hear at instructor gatherings is don't be this person on the mat and then a different person out in the community.
Yeah.
Right? Because, you don't want to be, we can't be, saying and presenting these life skills in a way, and then we're practicing the opposite at the restaurant in the evening and getting, just acting different ways. So that's the one thing that I really like about our network of schools is that, we're all expected to be top-notch instructors, but also top-notch people and human beings and care for everybody and do the right thing and be examples in our communities, not just for jiu-jitsu, but just being how to do it the right way.
Absolutely. Absolutely, John. Man, this has been an awesome conversation. I've loved hearing about your humble beginnings with martial arts. You touched on, the early, the early to mid 80s, of course, and then how that's kind of transcended, learned about that you were involved with other extracurricular sports, which is something that I learned about you. Also finished a degree. And I, I wonder when you mentioned about working in the corporate world and then you made that decision to go into martial arts full time, I bet that was probably the best feeling, right?
It was. So so I worked in a technology company.
Yeah.
And so I loved it. We had a cool group. I had like an amazing team and a good manager. So I wasn't looking to get out, but I was just not like corporate ladder, And so when we did that, my wife and I, we didn't have kids at the time.
Sure.
She was working full time. So we had like health benefits. We had all that. So I took the leap out. But I do remember all of my like golf shirts that had like the company logo embroidered on it, our company shirts. I took them all. Okay. It's kind of like when you go to the new when you go travel or explore, you burn the boats. so you have to, when you land at the new place, there's no way to go back. So what I did is I took all those shirts and I put them in a bag and I took them and donated them. And
Mm.
so that way I was like, as a way, like, hey, let's just focus forward. And it was challenging and it was exciting. But at the same time, I believed in myself. And without my wife, like right there, she believed in and supported and trusted that I could do it. So that was it. I've always been doing martial arts full time since that one time. So it was a little scary, but without kids and stuff at home and mouths to feed and all that,
Yeah.
I could take that little leap of faith, and it worked out.
Man, that's so awesome. And what's a good thing you did, right? Because you wouldn't be where you are now, you know?
I would
And
be doing martial arts. I'd be training, but I wouldn't have the CTC and
yeah,
wouldn't have met you and all this kind of stuff. So I enjoy really enjoying where I am right now in my life, and just blessed to have my health and school and family, and just kind of cruising on down toward my mid to late 50s and 60s down the road, and just living it.
absolutely. And then you touched on the ICP, the early on days. I thought that was really cool how you talked about being in a room full of like only 30 people, where now where you go, it's like hundreds of people. So,
Yeah.
just hearing about how drastically that's changed and for the good way, of course. And then we touched on, yeah, just, the business part, running Matt Munchkins, running all these different programs and learning how to juggle being, just not just an okay instructor, but, being the best instructor that you can. And man, that's so cool. John, one final question for you. Now that you're a black belt, you know, has anything changed as far as your perception of jujitsu, or was it just another day? Meaning like obviously it's a very important milestone, but I know sometimes when people reach a certain level, their expectation of it might have changed after the day when they got it. So I wonder for you, when you got your black belt, to where you are now, has anything, significantly changed maybe in your mindset, or has it helped your business? Because when people see a black belt, they might not know what it is, but they know like, oh, black belt, so he's good, as opposed to like blue, purple, or brown. So I ask, you like as a black belt, has anything changed after the fact?
Not so much. I think the way I always looked at it, and I remember this back when I was before I got my first black belt in the other art. I remember always hearing that you have to be the belt that you want to become before you even get the belt or the physical belt around your waist.
I
So
like that.
so since I was had the traditional background, and I was already a black belt in that system, and then I was moving along in the great. So I always operated. I wore whatever belt I was, but in my mind, I was already in a black belt mindset. So the belt was just like, presenting where my skill level was, but my mindset was always on the black belt. Hidon said something to me so important, and I always just kind of still go by it today. Is I think I was a blue belt, and he was at my school teaching a seminar, and we were doing like a basic combatives lesson move for everybody, and he was like, John, while they were practicing, he's like, John, listen, don't worry about being a black belt in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. That'll come. Become a black belt in Gracie combatives first.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what he was telling me was like, foundation, fundamentals, all the basic principles, and now we have the 32 principles to work on. So I was always in mindset of black belt, and it felt good. I'm not going to lie. When I got my black belt
Sure.
in Jiu-Jitsu at
Yeah.
headquarters, I mean, it was like, man, that's, and I had overcome some stuff in my life. I had some health issues going on, and so I am good to go. But I had some challenges, and I was like, man, I had to overcome all those challenges, and I was out there and wrapped that black belt around it. It felt good.
Yeah.
But I was already in that black belt mindset. So, and I think that's how I taught my classes. So I think it was almost kind of, hey, we're still getting the same good instruction that we were as a purple belt or brown belt. And now we just have a black belt that can move us up through the belt ranks. And there we go.
Very cool. Yeah. And congrats belated again on the black belt. That's something that I look forward to one day. And just, talking to guys like yourself and seeing those that have paved the way before me, it's definitely inspiring and motivating as well. And your response is something very similar to what I hear from other black belts, especially those that have been doing it, for a long time. Like nothing changes. And like you said, I love how you said you become the belt before you actually get the belt. And I think that's important for those watching to right to understand, and even just in other facets of life. If you want to like, elevate to another like position, right? You become that position right before you actually get it. So
Yep.
very cool, very cool. John, man, this has been great. I really appreciate your time. Where can people find you on social media if they want to, get in touch with you or learn more about, the Lexington CTC?
So yeah, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Lexington. So that's our handle for Instagram. Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Lexington.com is the website. Lexington, South Carolina is right next to Lake Murray. We're right in the middle of South Carolina. So we have the lake. The beaches are about 2 hours away. Mountains are about 2 hours away. So it's a great place to travel through. We've got a pretty large mat space, plenty of visitor parking, and we'd love to have anybody come by, give us a shout, and train with us on the mat.
Very cool. Awesome. Yeah. So, guys, today we had John Carter on, black belt, Gracie Jiu Jitsu, lifetime martial artist, shared his experience today. And we're happy and humbled that you, took the time to be on. And yeah, man, we're wishing you the best. And yeah, the rest of 2026. And, for those watching, I thank you guys for tuning in. John, enjoy the rest of your day today, bro.
Will do. Thank you.